Welcome back, everyone, to Onslaught Gaming 40K. And today we're going to talk about how our experience was, my experience as the head judge, a couple of interviewees, an individual who participated at the Crucible 2024 this year. So give us one moment while we're going to break everything down to you. There's going to be AdMech talk, there's going to be Necron talk, and some Tyranid talk. Give us 1 second and we'll get started. Welcome back. Thank you for watching the introduction. And let me go ahead and start introducing everyone. First up is our co-host, the man Thomas, probably with a lot of opinions. As always, he definitely has opinions. And I know he definitely has opinions today on the show where he's going to talk about a few things, his experience and everything else that happened. And as a surprise to him, we're going to interview him as well and how well he was doing throughout the event. And also, we have another very special guest. We have Eric. How are we doing, Eric? All right.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome, of course, and welcome to the show. And then our last interviewee, we have Steven, which is called Wiggin. He put Wiggin in his title, so I should be apropos, right? Be appropriate to that. He is Wiggin. He's spazzing out, I guess. So thank you to everyone for participating. Thank you very much for joining the show. We're going to break down a couple things today on how your experience was at the Crucible at 2024 in Orlando, Florida, where we had a massive convention of more than one thing of Warhammer 40K. We had Age of Sigmar, we had Star Wars Legion, we had Kill Team, we had RPG, we had vendors, we had Felicia Day, that was one of the artists that was there, celebrities rather, right? So we're going to talk about a few of those things. Me and Thomas are going to line you guys up, but let's go ahead and start off with Eric. Eric, so thank you very much for joining the show and participating today. Tell everyone hello and tell them what you're all about, your name, what you played at the event, and we'll continue with that.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, my name's Eric. I'm from Ohio, so coming down to a new scene in Orlando was really intimidating, but was really excited to get into it. I like to think I'm a bit of an AdMech main, but I dabble in a few other armies, but AdMech is, I think, where my heart belongs.
Okay.
Really just about having some fun games, pretty casual player overall, but I do try to do well at competitive events when I do go to them.
Nice. So with that being said, what is your day one, baby? Like, what army did you play first? Was it AdMech or was it something different?
So my very first 40K army, we got into the game at 2018, and a local game shop opened up, and I bought some Dark Angels minis, but just a few of them, painted them up, and like before I really got into a full army, was always eyeing up AdMech and was really intimidated by painting them because I was a novice painter, not super artistic, and like all the spindly bits and everything was really intimidating. But only about a month or two into us playing, picked up their like starter set or whatever, started painting them with a friend of mine, and it really took off since then.
Nice. Thank you for that. So AdMech has been very close to your heart, so like you've been saying, right? And they do have a lot of very finicky bits where, I mean, I think they might be worse than Eldar, where they're thinner, right? Like Eldar, when you try to glue them at the wrist, like they are the absolute worst. You have to have tweezers, right?
That's my other baby. T3 one man. T3 one wound.
Nice. So that's your other baby. So talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind, with everyone. So talk about how you play Eldar, or what you love about Eldar. Because I'm a Harlequin player. I love solely Harlequins. I don't like everything else that's involved with Eldar, but I love me some Harlequins.
I actually, I don't know if you can see it. I have a Yanari tattoo, so I'm really into edgy death elves. The death cult thing was
Nice.
really cool, so I'm super into that part of it. I'm honestly really addicted to any sort of army that's like obscure that no one ever plays, so that when I show up to the table, people are like, "I've never played against this before." So anything like that. It's surprising I don't play Gene Stealer cults. Just anything that's like obscure, I'm into.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you for letting everyone know about your favorite armies. So we know, and I've shared it in the YouTube description section, your army list that you played AdMech at Crucible, and you were in first place. So congratulations in winning first place in the elite bracket. For everyone who doesn't know, we had multiple brackets throughout, or pods, as some TOs will call them, right? Where there was the champions bracket, where there was the top 16 that was left over, and then there was the elite, where Eric won first place with his AdMech. He went undefeated once the pod started being created. He beat everybody that he played against. Tell us about your experience, how you and AdMech were able to do what you did in the new pod.
Once the pod split, really I was like, I had some pretty solid matchups for myself. I fought Eldar twice, which I think is very positive. AdMech favored. Fought Necrons once. That was a really fun game. He was a bit of a newer player, so I felt like that one was a bit of a gimme for me. And then I fought Gladius Task Force Dark Angels, and that is a rough one. That is a rough one. But I think that AdMech at this point really has the potential to take on just about every matchup. There's a few that are like a little bit challenging, but nothing feels unsurmountable for the army anymore at this point.
Yeah, so how do you feel with the new data slate and the new FAQ that came out? How do you feel about AdMech now? Do they feel like more of a relevant army or more competitive army?
I think they might be the most underrated army competitively right now. It might be a collection thing, just because the meta AdMech lists are quite expensive dollar-wise, but I think as far as what AdMech is able to do on the table, I don't see them very often. I think they're very, very underrated. They have the durability to stick around in grindier, more attrition-based matchups. They have enough damage to trade well with like MSU armies, so like Eldar. My MSU is cheaper, and it hits hard enough to kill Eldar. Their MSU is just more expensive, so it's like if it's a MSU trading game, I win. If it's a grinding game, I do pretty well. Even into like elite armies, like World Eaters, for example, the 10-man like elite Skitarii bricks, like the Taraxi and the Sicarians, can get in and live pretty long against units like Angron. The regular 8-bound they hold their own against, just enough to keep you in place while I score a whole bunch. So I think they're a very, very, very slept-on army.
You got any questions, Thomas, you want to ask off before you fall asleep over there?
No, I'm good.
I kid, of course.
Just gonna ask, what do you your difficult matchups is? Like, what do you think a kind of hard army that would challenge you for your, well, in you specifically, but also AdMech?
I think that at least the lists that I've been playing, a lot of the Skitarii Hunter cohort is kind of the most relevant AdMech build. I think the matches that they're going to struggle with most are going to be armies with a lot of 2-up saves and access to Armor of Contempt. There is some ignore cover in the army, but most of their profiles that are being thrown out is a lot of AP1, some AP2, and whenever you're playing against Grey Knights or Voton and they're playing a whole bunch of the Hearthguard, or you're playing against like
Dark Angels?
Dark Angels, yeah. They just pop that Armor of Contempt, and your damage absolutely plummets. The tools for it are limited unless you play a very different build from the one that I had done. But I think where AdMech does well enough in those matchups is that I tend to have a lot more on the board. I can hold Grey Knights back for a few turns and hopefully score enough to win. I actually played against Grey Knights against Dave Ozawa. He had won Crucible a year or two ago. I don't remember.
He did
But,
with great nights. He did. That's a very good friend of mine too. Yes.
Yeah, I lost to him by 2, and it was just there was a few times, a few situations where the AP1 was just not enough to push through on a few units, and he had enough to pop out a secret mission on round 5, win the game, took it out from under me.
So you think AdMech still needs a little bit of fixing, a little bit of additional assistance, maybe some more AP on your weapons, better saves? Obviously, those, we don't want a wish list of imaginary world, but what do you think would take just to make them a little bit better so they could be more in the 50-55 kind of winning tier?
Actually, I mean, if we're going to like try to make them busted, there's a whole bunch of stuff I could do. But honestly, I think the army is in a pretty good spot. Very minor changes I would make. Belisari's Call is more relevant now than he has been since 8th edition, so that's really fun. I think he still has some problems. A few of his auras are kind of mediocre. I think making him more of a centerpiece unit, changing one of his auras is he gives an aura of 6 inches around him. Every AdMech unit has cover, which in 10th edition is like worthless. Taking that and making it an aura of ignore cover, I think would be a very, very impactful way to make him more of a staple at AdMech lists, because a lot of our AP does come in about 1 or 2, and then having access to ignore's cover would just push the damage a little bit more so that the AP1 profiles weren't bouncing off save 2 and save 3 armor.
Correct, especially with the armor contempt like you were talking about. Yeah, that can affect you a lot. But you do have a lot of shots, though. You do have some attrition.
They do have a ton of shots. Other than that, I think that there's some really like iconic AdMech units that are just terrible. Like robots are totally irrelevant outside of the Cybernetica cohort detachment, and even there, they're kind of like a tier 2 unit. I think that the what's it called? The Dune Crawler, super iconic. Everyone knows that as like the AdMech unit, and it's just you compare it to any other 140, I think it's 160 points now, 160 point tank, and it just doesn't really hold up in any way whatsoever. Super hard to move because it's like on a pie dish for like its base. I'd like to see that either become cheaper or just give it some more relevant rules. And in the data slate, they actually did change some of the gun profiles, and some of them are like almost there, but the model competes with a lot of units in the codex, and it just doesn't really get there in pretty much any comparison.
Yeah, I just need a little bit of oomph. So Chris wanted to say to you, let me show this real quickly. So Chris is saying, give Call the ability to give 2 units ignore modifiers. So you agree? I agree.
I think that's pretty crazy. I think ignore mods is a very, very powerful ability, and like I don't want. I like where AdMech's at. I don't want to see them get nerfed. Like ignoring mods would help, but I'm gonna be honest. I think that's a little bit much. He's 150 points. Like he's cheap enough and annoying enough as he is. I don't think we got to make him too crazy.
Got it. Or increase his points and give him those abilities, right? So
yeah, I mean, if we want to make him like a 250 point character, give him crazy abilities, I'm cool with that too. But if we're gonna keep him kind of cheap and easy to slot into most lists, you gotta be moderate with what he actually does.
I respect that. I respect that very much. So if you don't mind just giving us a little bit more of a breakdown of your pod games, kind of your experiences with your players, your participants that you played with. If you remember the names, it's okay. If you don't, try to give us a breakdown. Take a little moment if you need one, and if Thomas has any questions as well, we'll make sure to end with those.
I'm just gonna bring up my tournament folder here. So after the pod broke, I played against Zach. He's a Necron player, kind of newer to the game. Super nice guy. He actually won Best Sportsman. So he was like an awesome opponent. He's newer to the game. This is like his first like big event, and brought Necrons, Hypercrypt. Not like the most 100% meta variant of Hypercrypt. He was playing Monolith teleporting around with melee, which was like super cool. that game was funny. I left a big hole for him, hoping he would like fall for it, bring the monolith in, and then I would kill a bunch of stuff. But he didn't fall for it, so that was funny.
Nice.
But that was a great game. Super nice guy. I just have to mention, he owns 32 Night Spinners, and I think
Oh my gosh.
he bought an Eldar lot, and like we were talking about, I was like, oh, like you're into Eldar too. That's kind of cool. He's like, yeah. So I bought the lot for $500, and it was bins and bins and bins of Eldar. I own 32 Night Spinners. I'm like, oh, do you mean warp spiders, like the guys with the death spinners? He's like, no, the tank. 32 of them. I'm like, damn, bro. Like, you really got a good deal for $500, man. So he was awesome opponent. I actually have him on Discord. Might buy a few Night Spinners off of him.
I mean, he doesn't need more than like what, 3?
Yeah, 3. You're capped out at 3 minutes. But I might get a couple Night Spinners. My game 2 was against Eric Schreiner. He had actually won Best Painted, so I was playing against a lot of exceptional people. Super good opponent. Yeah. Really chill guy. I think my favorite part about that game is sometimes you sit across from a person and you're both on the same page with, playing by intent. You get a few take-backs, they get a few take-backs. minor things, nothing too crazy. Yeah. But you sit down and both of you are just like on the same page, having a good game, and like pointing out things that someone may have missed, making sure no one has like gotchas. And then like at one point we had like an hour and a half on the clock. We chatted about lore for a bit, what we like, what we dislike about the armies, complimenting each other's paint jobs. Like, just a great game, great opponent. I can't speak highly enough about him. He was actually my favorite opponent at the event. Just a really, really solid guy.
Nice. If he would stop winning Best Paint, he'll probably win Best Sport one day.
maybe. Like it was awesome. His army is absolutely gorgeous. And I really don't get a chance to play against Eldar very much up in our like Ohio, Pennsylvania meta. Just not a lot of players in my area. Like I tend to be the Eldar player when Eldar does show up. So being able to play against like a nice, competent Eldar player, he knows his rules really well. Was very, very cool. In fact, my 4th game was against Riley. He's on the same team as my buddy, Threat Level Midnight, I think they call themselves. But he was also Eldar. A little bit of a different list. He had 15 Scourges, D Cannons. That was a challenging matchup for me. That was one I thought was like, Eldar tends to be pretty AdMech favored, but on the ritual and on the deployment that we had gotten, he had access to shoot Scourges into my deployment zone, into my transports pretty early. It was a very key part of my list. So I lost all my transports by the bottom of 2, but just, and honestly, I probably should not have won that game. I made some misplays for sure, but I just kept drawing the secondaries I needed, and he didn't. And there was a few pivotal moments where I just had a lot of luck on my side. And I hate to say that my last game was really dice, but I really feel like it was. Shout out to Riley. He's a really good opponent as well. And then my game, 3rd game of the pod was into the Gladius Task Force Archangels. And this was the one I was most worried about because the 2-up Armor of Contempt is it's a big challenge for AdMech to overcome. And it was on hidden supplies, take and hold. So a lot of objectives, very safe to hold, especially on the GW1 setup, the one that has like the terrain triangles kind of in the center.
Correct. Yep.
And trying to find ways to make sure he did not get a high scoring primary was really like that was the crux of my game plan, is figuring out ways to safely get across, deny the primary while I also scored my own. Because I knew if that game if we both played cagey that game, it's just going to be both of us are going to get 10, 15-point turns, 50-point primary by the end of the game, and it's going to come down to secondaries. So it'll be if I'm lucky or not. So I had to find ways to actually break that like stalemate between us and deny a couple of his turns of primary. So that one was that was a thinker for sure. That was a very cognitive game. So I just sent wave after wave of my guys into him. Little known fact, Space Marines have a kill count, and once they reach that like limit, they can't kill anymore. So I just kept sending more and more cyborgs in until you ran out of the ability to kill me.
What were you sending into him in exactly? What units?
So Skitarii Vanguard. Little known. I don't know if many people know about this, but they have a 3-inch aura of -1 OC, and that does not have OC doesn't have like a statement that says you can't drop to 0. So if you're playing against Death Guard or you're playing against Qatari Vanguard, your OC does drop to 0 if you're within 3 inches of one of those units. So he had a lot of OC1, Inner Circle Companions, Deathwing Knights. Those were like his key units holding points. And I just string some Skitarii onto the point. One guy's within 3 inches of a Deathwing Knight unit. They drop to OC 0. I hold the point. So I just did that a couple turns, strung it between those two, his like natural expansions. And he had 5-point primaries for 2 out of the 4 scoring turns.
Very smart.
Wow.
And that was all. That was really all it took, because at that point it came down to secondaries.
Very smart play.
Clutch, very clutch. Good job. So very smart, man. You ended up doing what you needed to do in all of your games, and that was your final game in that pod, right?
No, that was my 3rd game. My final game was against Riley, so it was Eldar was my 4th game.
Got it. That was your 4th. Got it. Yeah, as soon as you said the ritual, I was like, I know the ritual was last.
Yeah.
So you kind of just jumped one back. All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about Eldar.
Don't worry, we'll have more Eldar time in the future to talk about all the Eldar you want. I would love to have you on a future show as well when I start talking about Harlequins, and then we could talk about Ynnari and things like that. So that would be an absolute pleasure. But no, thank you very much. Thomas, do you have any questions before I ask him the final question?
Yeah, just kind of, where you happy with your list, or are you gonna make some changes after this event?
So I've been playing this list since they got their change, and it was actually a list written up by one of the guys I chat with on the AdMech Discord. I just kind of like stole it, played it, really liked how it ran. I think it has some holes in it. There's definitely some changes, I think, to optimize it. I hate to say it, Belisarius Call is probably not the most meta unit for that list, but I like him a lot just because he's been shit for so many years. Yes. So I play him. If I wanted to really optimize the list, Call probably comes out. And I was theorizing a lot, a build that was very similar to Richard Siegler's build that he ran at this event with the 3 Scorpius tanks.
Yes.
And I think if I do end up pivoting, maybe after September, I have another GT this next weekend. I'm going to play the same list, so I'm comfortable with it. But after that GT, I'm going to
You're a gladiator.
Yeah. It's only a 5 round. So it's not that bad. But I wanted to try out a little bit less horde, a little bit more consistent damage style of AdMech. But I think the list runs really well. Really, the weak points of it, like the weaker units in it tend to be the 5-man Ruststalker units. I found a lot of times they don't have a point, but sometimes a unit just sits around and really doesn't do anything, and you don't realize the strength of the unit has been like screening out something, or you ran it forward and it did a random objective. So there's like cheap little 5-man units that move pretty quick are honestly really strong, and I think there might be something better in the book to replace them with, but those little like 5-man cheap action monkey units are still pretty important to the list. There's probably better substitutes, but it's what I have in there right now. I think they're funny. Sniping out characters is always funny.
That is. So I love your insight. Thank you for the breakdown of your experience at Crucible. So speaking of that, right, this is going to kind of be a 2-part. So first things first, overall, how was your experience at Crucible? And it better be positive, because I was the head judge, and I'll see you next year.
For sure.
I kid, of course. No, I kid, of course. Tell everybody your experience at Crucible, how you felt about the entire event, how you felt about playing 7 rounds, things like that. So
7-round events are intimidating. There's just no way around it. There's definitely brain drain. Day 2, day 3. There's a lot. It's just a lot of games of Warhammer. Like 21 hours of Warhammer is a lot, no matter how you come at it. But I honestly really, really enjoyed Crucible. It's going to go into the Hall of Fame of one of my favorite events I've been to. I think the Florida meta is super cool. You guys have so many like great hobbyists and painters and players. Like there's something for everyone in the Florida meta. If people are hesitant to go to a bigger event just because you got to travel a little bit, go to Florida, like I gotta say it was definitely worth it. I I feel like if I lived in Florida, played in that meta regularly, I would be a much stronger player because you guys have like just some really astounding players down there. I like my little northern meta, but I feel like it's a smaller pond. Like it's just Florida's got an awesome meta.
No, we appreciate that. And I will say arrogantly, right? We have the best meta in the world. We have Art of War, of course, right?
That's true. You do have Art of War local. Yeah, I didn't get to play one of them. I wish I did. That was like one of my goals for coming down was like I want to hit one of the Art of War guys, but didn't happen this time. Maybe next year.
Call them out next year. Call one of them out next year so you can guarantee that game.
Yeah,
right?
Siegler, you gotta hold your title for best AdMech, man.
That's right.
Oh my.
Shots fired.
He'll destroy me. He'll destroy me.
Hey, you have a whole year, all right? He came and did everything he did in 1 year, all right? So everyone has the opportunity. I never downplay anyone. I never sleep on anyone. I tell people all the time, everyone has the ability if you're going to sit there and practice 5 days a week, right? I mean,
yeah, for sure. And he plays against great players all the time.
He does. He absolutely does.
Best in the world. His teammates.
Absolutely. Best in the world. Shout out to all of those guys, Art of War. They're always fantastic as always. So my final question to you, do you have any tips for any of the AdMech players that are listening today? Maybe some great insight in how they can be in first place at Crucible for the elite bracket next year. Maybe they try to compete against you.
Maybe. I'd say I think that the Army really shines whenever you just slow down and think about your turn. You have so many units to move and so many dice to roll, but just like a little 5-minute think over what you need to accomplish during the turn, where units need to be, where to position. And that's good advice for any army, but I think it's especially true for AdMech. There's so many auras that proc off of each other. And the other thing I would say is just because our units are cheap doesn't make them sacrificial. Make sure that every time you're using a unit, regardless of the points cost, that it's going to score you points. Make sure that you're move blocking, denying your opponent's primary, denying secondaries, denying movement. Don't just use a unit to run out there and die for no reason. Just because we're cheap doesn't mean we're expendable. I think that's a very important lesson with AdMech and any MSU army, really.
True indeed. True indeed. Especially with World Eaters, where I kept on telling your friend Daniel Walker, you're my favorite, you're my favorite, you're my favorite. As I passed him the award, right, for Best World Eater, I was like, my favorite. I was my favorite award of the event. Speaking of which, do you have any shout outs? Anybody that you would like to thank? Anyone that you would like to say hello to? Anything like that?
A big shout out if there are any AdMech players listening. The AdMech Discord, I think it's called the AdMech Unofficial Discord. Really good place for competitive discussion. A lot of the times I find that 40K Discords, there's just, even when you get into the competitive area of Discords, they just have like a weird vibe. The AdMech one's very welcoming to everybody. There's a lot of casual discussion between competitive players there. A lot of really good players are in that. There's I forget his name. His handle's Dadmech. He plays in Australia. He's a frequent chatter in that Discord. Siegler will hop in sometimes. It's a great resource to bounce list ideas off people. And I think that's like the think tank for where a lot of really solid AdMech players will come from.
Love it. No, thank you for the opportunity to have you on the show, brother. You take care. You have a wonderful one. If you want to hang around, like we were talking about previously before the show, you're more than welcome to hang around. But if you got to deuce out, do what you got to do, and we'll catch you some other time. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Robin Roberts wanted to say real quick to you that he was pleasantly surprised how good you are and AdMech really is. And he said AdMech is super strong.
Hey, man, AdMech, like I'm saying, people are sleeping on it. That was my round 3 opponent. He brought it back in the last round. I think if I had a little bit more time just to think about it, I think I could have clenched it, but he got me. So that was a super, super fun and very, very very mentally taxing game. Admech and Teams their calls. It's just so many guys.
And look at Eric. He wanted to give you some love. So Eric, the man, best in paints over here, gave you a shout out. He said you were a top-notch opponent.
Hey,
he loved
thanks,
you
man.
too, Eric. He had nothing but lovely things to say about you.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. So we're going to jump into a commercial real quick. We'll be right back to break down another interview with Steven and his Necron. So hang tight, everybody. See you in about 1 minute and 10 seconds. Now with a word from our sponsor, Baron of Dice. Baron of Dice is your one-stop shop for premium wargaming dice. Our dice are made with premium resin materials and colored dyes. Each die is hand-mixed to the desired result and then carefully swirled with 2, 3, or 4 colors in a silicone mold before being laser engraved with a wicked symbol and finished in a matte or gloss polish. There are no imperfections in our dice, no balancing issues, no micro bubbles or mold lines. This is the difference between. You can, quite literally, feel and hear a difference with our dice. Whatever game you play, whatever style your team or faction rocks, we're sure to have something to elevate your game. With over 500 styles and over 4,000 customer reviews, welcome to the best dice on the planet. Now back to our show. All right, we're back, everyone. And thank you. Look at this man right here. You've got the treasures in your hand, huh?
Yeah.
And thank you
Baron
very
of
much.
Dice. You can't really beat him.
Can't beat
My
him,
dice
man.
are also
They have-
Baron of Dice, so
Yeah, and we were sponsored by Baron of Dice this year. All 6,000 dice arrived at my home about 6 months ago. The Crucible invested in that many dice to give out to swag to everyone. I do apologize if you didn't get any swag dice, but it's your fault. You should have asked for some dice, right? But I kid, of course. But Baron of Dice is absolutely amazing. Everyone go check them out on their website. They have beautiful, beautiful dice. Those resin dice roll really well as well. We had them on stream. So I hope everyone had an opportunity to get their 6 dice that me and Tim Wright like to give away. So getting right into it. Thomas, you want to do some introductory type of questions to our friend here, Steven?
sure. First of all, what
Line
up,
up.
man? Thanks for
How's it
joining.
going? Of course. Thank you guys for having
Secondly,
me.
you played at Crucible, and judging from your shirt and the background you got there, you played a very, very mean list.
Yeah, I played Hypercurve Necrons. Had a blast at Crucible. I did make it into the top 16, but I did not. I would have liked to have performed a little better at the same time.
Same. I'm right there with you.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us who you are. If you're on a club, tell us about you, tell us about your day one army, things like that, man, and what your passion is. And also, we were talking previous to the show that you do things for the community. So talk to us about that as well, please.
Yeah, so I'm pretty far south. I'm all the way down in Naples. But I am a Florida resident. I lived in Philadelphia most of my life, but I have started developing a community down here. I host every Tuesday because the local gaming stores in my area are closed. So I have 5 tables all set up with terrain, the mats, you name it, I have it. I also have 7 armies that I make readily available to any of the players who come down. If they want to test something to try it out in their lists, they're able to do it if I have it. I can't, supply the world with everything, but I try and allow them to use what I have. Also order pizza for everybody, to try and encourage people to come down and play and everything. So there's that. Behind me is my Tomb World. That's all my Necrons back there in my big display case. I'm a Necron main, always will be. Had a blast. I did get to play the Art of War members, or at least one of them. He showed me that I was woefully unprepared for what Grey Knights could do. And
Does this member have a name?
He sure does. Jack Harpster. Absolutely incredible. Happy birthday, by the way. One of those people who sang you happy birthday while you ran away. But what an incredible player. Actually tried to coach me during the game on how to beat him. And I mean, he was pretty much like, listen, I'm unbeatable, but we're going to work together to try and beat me. It's not going to work, but we're going to work together. So we did. And he was right. Yeah, he was right. It didn't work, but we tried. And I really appreciate his coaching during the game as well. That was amazing. So appreciate that. So came up to Crucible, had an absolutely fantastic time, got to be on stream. Wish I could have performed better to keep him, maybe more entertained during it. I just had a blast. Honestly, Crucible is definitely, I go to the GTs all over the United States, and Crucible is definitely top of my list, and I'm going to be attending every year.
Thank you for slipping me that $100 to get on stream. I mean, what?
Yeah. It was nothing. And don't worry about the Louis Vuitton either.
No, and honestly, he didn't give me any money, but he did give me Louis Vuitton after the third day after. Obviously, it was after you were on stream. But I smelled something, and I was like, man, I've never smelled a cologne that smells that good. And then you gifted me. Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. I use it all the time now.
Oh, it's great. I love it.
He came right over and showed it off to me. He's like, hey, does it smell good? I'm like, what's that? It's like Louis Vuitton. I put it back in his pocket and walked away. What just happened?
Look, man, Steven gave me a gift. I had to be appreciative, man. I had to show off a little bit, right? I had to show off that Louis Vuitton.
For sure.
Go ahead, Thomas. Line them up, please.
So first of all, how'd you do? Where'd you end up by the end of day 3?
I got top 10. I barely made that at 10th place. I definitely want to give a huge shout out right now, though, to the Necron player who bested me and was best in faction, Christopher Heron. Can't wait to discuss stuff with you and talk about Necrons and the state they're in, and what list you might be bringing and what list I might be bringing to potentially take that spot from you in the future.
He was actually in the chat a couple minutes ago. I don't know if he's still in here, but he should have heard you. Yes. Amazing individual, by the way.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy.
Yeah, he has. Actually, he just said, "Was nice meeting you as well."
Yes, of course. I can't wait.
Pleasure.
Can't wait to pick your brain.
He has a YouTube channel as well.
I will have to check
Kevin. That out. I believe they're on the East Coast. They're very far away. Actually, me and Kevin are going to start working together a little bit next year. So I'm going to see Chris a lot more often. He is a wonderful, lovely individual. Every time I see him, he has nothing but smiles, just like yourself, Steven. So I appreciate that very much. As everyone knows, I do this for the community. I do it for the smiles. That's my currency, right? My value out of Crucible and what I get out of it, because I don't get paid a red cent out of it at all. So, but no, I love the Crucible, and I'm glad you participated. Thomas, what else you want to ask him, brother, about his games, things like that?
Yep. Just through from day 1 to the end of day 3. How'd your games go?
So I actually ended up getting my first game was with I believe a Chaos Space Marine player. After the bracket broke. He was very nice, did very well. And then I ended up versing the 2 Grey Knights players back to back. My game 6 my game 6 was a bye, I believe. And my game 7 was a game where the ritual is tough, right? So we both decided that he had to leave in about 35 to 45 minutes before the round ended, and he didn't want to rush the game on me. So we rolled off to see how it ended. So unfortunately for me, I had a very lax game day 3. But all my opponents in days 1 and 2 were absolutely phenomenal. Absolute pleasures, and I would love to give them all shout outs at the end of this as well, because a couple players in particular stood out to me as super friendly, and you notice that with everybody at Crucible. Nobody was giving you I gotcha moments. Everybody was friendly. Everybody was having a good time, and there was really just this huge energy of like just great like atmosphere in the whole place. So I would like to give them a shout out at the end though too.
Shout out to all of your participants. Love it, man. Love it. And I'm glad that you had a great experience, right? Like that's what I work for, 364 days out of the year, because the 65th day, the 365th day is Crucible. That's me and Tim worked so hard putting this all together, making sure that everybody's aware, making all of these carnages events, right? Hopefully, the store, I believe you run as a head judge at a store where you're down at in Naples area, right? So hopefully you guys can do a carnage as well. A carnage is an opportunity for people to win a ticket for Crucible, right? It's an opportunity for people to market themselves and then market us as well. So it's a partnership of love and trust and just working in unison, right? And making both of our locations a lot better, making Crucible more of a destination spot, because everything independent, we are the largest in the state of Florida outside of GW and anything else that comes out, right? Obviously Tampa Open has, 300, 400 participants probably this year, but Crucible had 140 pay in, 117 actually show up, and I believe someone else dropped day one right before we actually got rolling. So 116 participants actually showed up, and you were one of those wonderful individuals that made it to the top 16 bracket. So once again, congratulations to you. We do have a question for you, Steven.
Sure.
From the Toad Prince. Any tips on attaching Necron Deathmark arms? This is suffering.
Yeah, you know what? So as painful as this is, get all of them ready at the same time, crack them knuckles, and get to work, because it is not going to get any better. Just wait until you have to do the 120 warriors like I did. That's also, that one's pretty bad too. Deathmarks, fantastic unit. Definitely one that I recommend in most builds. Generally speaking, they're really good. So keep at it, build that up, and start playing them on the battlefield. You'll like them.
Love it. So hopefully that helps you out, the Toad Prince. Anything else, Thomas? Anything else you want to line up before I start asking my questions?
Oh yeah, I got one. So unlike AdMech, Necrons have a codex. So why Hypercrypt? Because you got options.
Yeah. So after the constant kneecapping of Canoptic Court over the previous months, I found it to be too elite without enough damage to do much. So I strayed away from that. It's still good, just like Awakened Dynasty and Hypercrypt are. You just have to have specific builds around it, which is a shame. You can't just plug in said thing. It has to be the Wraiths. It has to be the Doomstalkers. And that's just the meat of your army, and then X, Y, and Z to fill in. So I think that Hypercrypt has options. I think that Awakened Dynasty is pretty skewy at the moment. There are some leader builds, but I think it's heavy infantry. So apart from Canoptic Court, you're going very skewy. And I went incredibly skewy with my list. I took 4 Catan because right now, obviously, that's what's shining. That's what's shining right now. And it just, the 4-ups with 5-up feel no pain throw people off with calculations and everything else. So my list was very skewy, and I found extreme success with that in the first couple days. And I would argue got a little lucky too. One of my better opponents, failed a 5-inch charge to get me where I was. Another one missed an assassination by 2 wounds. So, there is a sense of luck to getting to where I was as well. But ultimately speaking, I think that my list carried me a little bit, and Catan shine right now. That's all.
They certainly do. I have a Necron collection. I have the Nightbringer and what's his name, the Deceiver and the Void Dragon myself. So they're quite fun to throw at people and watch them not die for a while. But,
Yeah, I mean, they can just survive. And then in Hypercrypt, if you don't pick them up, I can just pull them away and then just leave them in my backline for 2 turns, and then they pop back up with 5 more wounds. Now deal with it.
God bless reanimation. It's just free healing.
Yeah. So.
I love. Yeah, go ahead, Thomas.
Oh, the only other question I had was, the same I had for Eric is any changes thinking of making, or you think this is kind of the way for a while?
I would love to play Obeisance Phalanx or Annihilation Legion, and I would love to see that played too. Unfortunately, right now it seems like unless you're a much smarter player than myself, it just doesn't seem viable. And I would I understand the nerfs to Canoptic Court at 60% win rate. That needed to go down. Hypercrypt is floating around 50%, which is fantastic for the game. That's the sweet spot. That's what you want to be at, 50%. Awakened is always floating at just under that. I would just like to see, if you're going to nerf Canoptic Court and maybe Hypercrypt in the future, Games Workshop, please give us Annihilation Legion or Obeisance Phalanx, anything. I mentioned this earlier before I was on chat. Triarch King should have Triarch keyword, maybe. Just, I don't know. But other than that, I think that Necrons are in a good place. Yes, Chris. Yeah, give
Chris,
Triarch the keyword. Yes, amen. Yeah,
I also own the Silent King, and I also agree. Although I'm much more heavy on the Annihilation Legion. I have 15 to 18 Scorpic Destroyers and the Ophidians and the Silent King with the 2 Catan and Nordic mods. I have an Annihilation list. I just don't think it's that great. So
it's not, but they could make it great. If you want to nerf, go ahead. Nerf Hypercrypt. I don't care. Nerf Canoptic Core. Throw it in the bin. Give us Obeisance Phalanx back and give us Annihilation Legion. I'd love to try those lists.
It's time for melee Necrons.
Yes. Thank you. Right?
100%. Lichguard and Destroyers all the way.
Listen. You want to play melee armies? Play World Eaters, okay? Play
melee
the
Necrons.
true melee armies. No, you're right though. Every army should have some variety of melee in it, right? There should be some of that, except for Tau, of course. Tau, they're gonna hit you like a wet noodle.
They have Recruit now, like +1 to hit and wound. Okay, calm down.
Yeah, but do they?
Did we have a best? They should make Kroot their own best faction. That should be a best faction trophy for sure.
That's my dark horse pick for 11th edition. Is Kroot get their own book next?
Oh, stop! That would be awesome. I might be a Kroot player. I don't know. No, just kidding, Necron. Just kidding. Worried. I love you.
I got nothing. If you got some questions for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for breaking everything down throughout the weekend. So how was your experience overall at the Crucible? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what are your expectations for next year? Do you want to get, obviously you want to get a little bit better than 10th place, right? So are you going to change things up? You're going to play a little bit more, continue to practice. What are your expectations for next year? And what may you potentially bring next year? I know it's a year out. You may have an entirely new army. But what do you foresee yourself doing in Crucible 25?
So it's definitely going to be Necrons. That's going to be just dependent on. I'm praying that, like we said before, Annihilation Legion and Obeisance Phalanx get a buff of some sort, because that's what I will bring. Ultimately speaking, Lichguard are my favorite infantry model for Necrons. I would like to see him shine again. So that would be the goal. If not, I have plenty of Necrons that I'll figure out for what's next year. I would be hopeful beyond imagining that my experience next year could even come close to this one. I got to be on stream. I got to play against arguably the best Grey Knights player in the United States. I got to play against, just amazing people. And if it even comes close, then I'm just going to have be above and beyond happy with my experience next year. So this year was just everything I could have imagined.
Love it. No, thank you for the kind words for Crucible, right? Hopefully we can continue to make it a great event for everyone who participates. Hopefully next year it's even better. Hopefully our swag is leveled up and our sponsorship is a lot better as well. So we're continuing to work at it and continue to make it better every year. And that's what we work hard for, just to make sure that everyone has a great experience. So, for you to kind of help out a little bit of people who are watching, who are Necron players, maybe they don't understand the game as well as you do and can get into the top 10 at Crucible, what tips might you be able to give to a Necron player from your weekend, and maybe something that they might not know? Any tips and tricks you could share?
I'm relatively newer to the game. I do a lot of studying. The tips that I would give is that there are several units that are overly pivotal in all of your detachment rules. I would say that hex marks are going to be your best friend in this meta. They have lone op, they can do actions, they're hard to kill, they can shoot at light infantry when it comes close to them. If they get shot at and they don't die, they can shoot back again. They overwatch for free. You know, that's going to be the chef's kiss of your action junkies. This meta until something changes drastically. Those and locusts. They do a lot of damage in a pinch. Those locust heavies, even regular locusts, can pump out 2 damage. A locust heavy will pump out 6 with the Gauss. So low-costed action junkies are going to be your best friends, and then bully that field with the Catan, because even high-end players are going to struggle with that 4-up invuln and that 5-up feel no pain. They just don't know how to calculate it.
And half damage.
And halving all damage. Yeah, it's hard to calculate that out.
And it is 3 before they get to hit it again.
Yes.
Or 1d3. Sorry.
It always catches people off guard when they play Necrons for the first time. They're like, I just can't seem to kill a single unit, right? Because they don't invest properly. So playing into Necrons is always a challenge. It was a challenge for me when I started playing into them. You know, when I first started playing into them into the newer edition, specifically in 9th edition, where they would just res like mad robots, right?
We are mad robots.
You guys are. I love it. I love the army aesthetically. Hopefully Games Workshop continues to improve on their Necrons and make them need their detachments specifically to be in the place that they need to be, so other people can play other detachments, right? Other than Hypercrypt. I mean, some people I think are playing, what is it called? The Annihilation, I believe, or
Awakened Dynasty.
Awakened. Thank you. Awakened Dynasty. A few people are playing that one, but it's really only those 2 detachments. So
yeah, that's the one that really leans into the resurrecting aspect of the Necrons rather than the damage.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. So before you head out, if and potentially, or before you're finished with your interviewing portion, would you love to give any shout outs to anybody? Any love you want to throw anybody's way? Go ahead and shout it out, brother.
Awesome. First off, definitely want to give a big shout out to my whole team, Dice, Death, and Robots. Thank you for making that event just absolutely even better than I could have ever imagined. Great community, great guys, great girls, the whole crew, just fantastic. Thank you so much for being so welcoming of me into the community, and I look forward to growing with you guys. In addition, I want to just give a shout out to all my opponents. I do remember you guys. John Sweet, what a fantastic player. Ultimately came down to him failing a 5-inch charge with his demons for me to beat him, and it would have been a tie otherwise. What a fantastic gentleman, and just a true pleasure to play. I have Justin. I played Hallowed Martyrs Sisters into him. He played Hallowed Martyrs. So thank you for trying to break the meta into Sisters. I hate Bringers of Flames with my Catan taking melted damage way too much. So really appreciate you for trying to break the meta. You gave me a battle as well, and you played phenomenally, sir. Sean McAllister played CSM in my game 3. It was a really good list. He's a really good player, but that was kind of a list kind of built for me to fight against. So it was a little bit overly decided on my end. It was unfortunate. But my toughest game by far. Jack Harpster, holy cow! What a man and what a player. Kills you with kindness, but kills you. Ultimately speaking. And what a gentleman. Really, true pleasure. And I'll never forget being able to play him on stream. That was amazing. My favorite game and my favorite, my most memorable opponent is Garrett Befera. He also played Grey Knights and beat me, so I obviously have some work to do at home. I need to find a Grey Knights player and really put my nose to the grindstone there. But the reason he's my favorite player, there was two. The less notable reason is because the bottom of turn 5, my Tesseract Vault did Deadly Demise for 35 mortal wounds into his units. So it didn't matter much, but that was just because it was the bottom of his turn 5. But that was just memorable. So it hit 7 of his units for 6, 6, 5, 1, 4, and D6 plus 3. So you guys do the math.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So that was memorable. But the more important reason was because he said that I was his favorite opponent and that he had a very amazing time playing me. And I was his favorite opponent possibly of all time. Ultimately, that's the goal for me. Whether I win or lose, I want my opponents to have a fantastic time playing the game so that way they continue to play the game. I don't want anybody to leave a game with me having a bad experience. So that's why it's memorable to me.
Especially me, right? We don't want you to give everyone or anyone else to give anyone a bad experience at Crucible.
Yes.
Yes. Spectacular. No, I love it, brother. Thank you. Great shout out, to everyone that participated with you, not against you, because we like to say that you play with your opponent, not against your opponent, right? This is a mutual, contractual, competitive game between the both of you. So I'm glad that you had a great time. I'm glad that you had the opportunity to go on stream. Wink, wink. Right.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. That was honestly amazing.
Absolutely. And hopefully we see you again next year, right? And hopefully I see you a lot sooner than that. Hopefully I see you on your side one day. Hopefully I'll see you at
guest of honor.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to attend, to be quite honest with you.
I'm going to put a bounty on your head, by the way. Just so you know.
They'll have to drag me out there. Make my life a lot easier. Hopefully I see you in November, right? For people who are listening, I am actually putting together a 8-man NTL team event called the Onslaught Tampa Open in Tampa, Florida. It's going to be on November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It's only going to be 5 rounds. Don't worry. I'm not going to make you go through a grueling 7 rounds. Again, like Crucible, right? But it's going to be 2, 2, and 1. So it's going to be a lot lighter than Crucible, where Crucible was 2, 3, 2. This is just going to be 2, 2, 1 on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's going to be a team event. One of my favorite competitive matches is team events. I actually love team events a lot. Me and Thomas have been where he did very great. I did subpar at it. Oh my gosh. Help me out here, Thomas. Don't make
Gateway
me do
Open.
it. Gateway Open. Thank you very much. There's so many events in my brain.
You got this, man.
At the Gateway Open, shout out to Doug once again. I had a wonderful time there. So hopefully you could participate, my brother Wiggin, and hopefully a lot of people that are listening here on stream, right, that they could participate at the team event in Tampa, Florida. Once again, November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Bring 7 other people with you and have a blast, right? Bring your friends, learn, meet new friends, learn new armies, and have a great time. By the way, just to incentivize people who are connoisseurs of alcohol, there is a bar literally 10 feet away from where the convention hall is at. So hopefully you enjoy yourself there and I get to see as many people as possible. Thank you very much. Once again, Steven. And if you want to hang out, brother, Thomas is just going to give a little bit of a breakdown on exactly what his experience was at Crucible as well. And then I'm going to kind of roll it out at the end about what my experience was as being the head judge and multiple years head judge for the Crucible 2024 and what you can all expect for Crucible 2025.
All right.
Yeah, I'd love to hang out. Last quick shout out to Sam. We didn't get to play a game because you had to leave a little early. But I would love to play you one day, and hopefully in Crucible next year we're lucky enough to actually get that game in.
Love it. Shout out. All right, brother. You take care. You have a good one. All right, Thomas, what you got for us?
Well, real quick, do we have a commercial, or we're going to go to the end of the episode?
Let's do the commercial. You want to do the commercial? Let's do the commercial. All right, one more commercial, everybody. This is somebody who actually supported us at Crucible 2024. So go ahead and enjoy. It's only going to be about 1 minute and 20 seconds long. Welcome to Big Bear 3D, your ultimate destination for top quality terrain and weapon props. Whether you're setting the stage for your next epic battle or enhancing your collection, Big Bear 3D has you covered. Don't forget to scan the QR code to explore our full range and bring the event home with you. Happy gaming! Big Bear 3D is excited to collaborate with Away Games, bringing top-tier competitive experiences to events across North America with our adaptable modular event tables. The Away Games event table, official for the American Team Championship and standard for the National Tabletop League, can now bring the event home. Pick up the Away Games 2024 event table to replicate any layout featured in ATC or NTL circuit events. Big Bear 3D is thrilled to offer sci-fi weapon props and raw part kits, printed in PLA plastic with all necessary assembly hardware included. We've also partnered with Hobby Goblins to provide assembled and painted prop kits for our customers. And don't forget, bring the event home with you. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much to both of our interviews, right? It was a spectacular time to have them on the show. I love their insight, their breakdown. I'm super happy that they had an amazing experience at Crucible. This show is for everybody. We don't always have to have everybody who wins first place in this bracket or that bracket, right? I want to make sure that I create a platform for everyone to kind of show their love. And hopefully in the future, if you're at my events, we can have you on the show as well, and you can talk about your experience of whatever it might be that I might be running. So going back to Big Bear 3D, he was the premier terrain that was brought by Away Games there at Crucible 2024. Thank you very much to Big Bear for making that amazing terrain. And I'm trying my best, people. If you know somebody in the Canada Dry company, right? I'm trying to get a sponsorship from Canada Dry. Hit me up. I love your product. Hit me up with some sponsorship, okay? I try to give you a shameless plug every once in a while. But go ahead. Take it away, Thomas. It's your show now.
Well, I played Tyranid, so surprise, surprise. Vanguard Onslaught, and I came in 12th. Had a really fun run. It was kind of like a mountain. I went 4-0 and then 0-3. It was great.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you in your experience.
It was awesome. My last day was very rough. I've never done a 3-day event before, and there was some other personal factors, but I had a great time. The event was awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
All of my opponents were fantastic, and I know the other two said that, and I'm sure, but I play a very frustrating list. For those of you who know what Tyranids do, and then specifically the stratagem Surprise Assault or Neurolictors, it gets real frustrating real fast. But all my opponents were gentlemen, particularly my last three. They were very gracious at showing me I'd flown a little bit too close to the sun. I also had the pleasure to play on stream, which was really funny because Trevi kept putting my matches up. I know of at least 3 rounds he put Tyranids on there, and people kept voting for the other stuff. And I actually had a buddy of mine, a mutual friend of ours. He's like, yeah, all you gotta do is just keep winning. Eventually, they have to put you on stream.
Yeah, true indeed.
And they did, yeah. And I actually got to also play Art of War. I played Mike Muzeni on his Thousand Sons.
Yes.
Another very frustrating army that can do seemingly everything, but not all at once, in his own words. But
you wanted that game. You actually,
I did.
like you prepared yourself and shouted it out, and you put it into the ether that, hey, I want to play against him one day, and you ended up having to do it. So
The very next event I went to, yes. And
so how was the sun? Was it hot?
It wasn't a game I had to lose, but he is certainly a better player and more of a master of his army than I was of mine. He deserved the win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He played it tighter, better, and it was an 11-point game though, so I will take that for Bugs and 1,000 Suns, and especially into him. Amen, Chris.
Yes. And that was somebody smoking on the 11th floor a cigarette. Like, you couldn't have went outside to smoke a cigarette. You know how easy that was to go outside? And then it became more challenging after the alarm went off because nobody could take the elevator. So forget that person, whoever it was, right? Like, screw them, man. They should have just waited, went outside and smoked their cigarette or whatever it was.
For those of you who weren't on your show, which I doubt is very many of you, I told Lewis, I said, yeah, you threw a great event, and the only problem all weekend you had no control over, so it was wonderful.
Yes.
And
sorry,
also,
I didn't mean to cut you off, bro.
Chris was actually my first opponent on day 3. I played him.
Oh, nice.
Yep. He was very gracious. I was not. He did very good. I was tabled by turn 4, and we had a lot of fun. I kept. I got the frustration of not being able to kill Necrons, and also the Silent King just shuts off everything Vanguard wants to do because ignore all mods is a hell of a rule.
It is.
I can -1 your attack. No, I can't. I can make you -1 to hit. No, I can't. I can -1 or 2 your leadership. No, I can't.
I can't.
It's so great. But no, he did. He used everything to its full effect and absolutely stopped me. That was like a 27-point loss. And so good on him. Again, he played his army and knew the matchup much better than I did. And my last opponent of my losses was Zach Martin, or Z Martin. I'm assuming the Zach.
Yeah.
A hilarious Eldar player, and I don't know if he was trying to be funny, but I found it funny. He had 3 Wraith Lords in his list, and the Avatar. And for those of you who aren't super familiar with Vanguard Tyranids, it stops working once your toughness gets 2 digits. So he was like, yeah, these are my fluff picks. They're not really that good, but I paid for bringing them. They're going out. They were the stars of the show. They walked through everything I wanted to do. It was, again, I was tabled by turn 4, and he knew his craft. Yeah, it was great. My
no
first
pun
4,
intended, right? He knew his craft. No pun intended.
Oh, also he had a wonderful paint scheme for his Eldar. It was very unique and it was wonderful to look at. The first 4 matches were great. My very first match was Purge the Foe into Bringers of Flame Sisters, like the worst Tyranid matchup you could give them. And then on top of that, I got to go first on Purge the Foe, which is not where you want to be. But my opponent and I had a wonderful back and forth. He was, again, very generous and very patient with understanding how battle shocks worked and sequencing. I ended up winning that one. My second opponent, I believe, was Votan. Yep, a gentleman named Theodore, or he goes by Ted.
Shout out to Teddy. Love that guy.
Yeah, he was very awesome to play against. We had a fun game. Casino guns are just they're my favorite part of 40K. He'd shoot me with one and it wouldn't even scratch the paint. Another one shot me and killed an X-Screen full to dead in a single by itself. And I'm like, what is happening? So, but ultimately I just had the stuff and played it good enough to take the victory there. My third round game, which is where the infamous fire alarm was against a demon player, and I only snuck a victory on that. I 1 point at the bottom of 4 because unfortunately we ran out of time. But he was an absolute gem to play against. We both had a lot of back and forth, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of considerations to go for, and he played a very, very good game with his list. And then my first matchup my first matchup in the bracket after the bracket separated was into a gentleman named Evan on Death Guard, and I feel very bad for him. I did very mean things. I built this list to counter or at least have a chance into Dark Angels, which, for those of you who don't know, -1 damage doesn't work when your damage is already 1. And so I just had a bunch of mass, AP2, good enough strength, 1 damage attacks, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s across the board. Also, it turns out this is very good into Death Guard Terminators. I wasn't going to table him, but like by turn 5, he would have had 2 Plagueburst Crawlers and Mortarion either in or touching his deployment zone. So we called on 4.
Wow.
We
so
talked
a lot of time.
Talked through turn 5. Like just drew our cards, saw it was realistic, and kind of called it there. But I had a very wonderful time. This is my first 7-round event and my first Crucible ever, actually. And very, very much like Mr. Wiggins said, I don't know if I can top this year. I had a wonderful run. I also got to go on stream. I also got to play against an Art of War member. I had a wonderful event. I won 2 raffles. That was just weird. One of them was actually the GSC. What was it? The big box Battle Force.
Yeah, the Battle Force.
I got that against Mr. Zach Martin, so that was a pleasant surprise.
I know. I tried to steal it from you.
you did steal it. You were a gentleman and brought it back.
Yes.
Yeah, he steals it and walks off out of my periphery, and I don't even notice it's gone. I'm trying to find where Lewis went. I'm like, where'd he go? I didn't even notice it was gone. But
I'm glad that you cared about me before you thought about your items.
I didn't even notice it.
Much love.
But no, yeah, it was a wonderful event, a wonderful opportunity to play, and I definitely going to go next year. I've been paying somewhat attention to you, so to answer your first 2 questions, Tyranids is day 1.
Yes.
And actually, very specifically, I bought the 8th edition Get Starting box, which was a Broodlord, 8 Gene Stealers, and a Trigon. And my list had 2 Gene Stealer breaks of 10 and 2 Broodlords with the Trigon. So, just a natural evolution. And then next year, I'm taking Tyranids. I do not care what changes come, how bad they are. I love my bugs. I will find a way to make something work.
No jumping back and forth. Stick to the armies, at least for a little while, right?
That is how you get... I would not have done as good as I did. Like, I only played Vanguard for maybe 10, 12 games before this.
Yeah.
Because I was heavy on Invasion Fleet. We had the Gateway Open and some of your other events you ran here locally.
Yeah.
But due to some unofficial advice I got on a very long road trip, I decided to play more aggressive and kind of affect my opponent and my opponent's game rather than react, and so I switched to this. And I placed way higher than I ever had before, so.
Love it. So what would you change now after the Crucible? Anything? Obviously, you're going to grab something to punch up to toughness double digits, right? But
I believe it was encapsulated best by Mr. Mike Muzzeni on stream when he said, if I don't kill these Gene Stealers, I just lose the game. So I am, which I was already going to do. I unfortunately found a change I could make like 2 days after list submission had passed. But I'm going to take out an Execrete and the Gargoyles and throw in another unit of Gene Stealers. And even after that, playing with that list, I might take out the Trigon and throw in 6 Raveners. Just for more mobility and more mass damage 1 twin linked attacks. But I got some experimenting to do. My next major event, that is for sure, is going to be the 8-man in November. I have a couple other opportunities I'm still waiting to see, but I got some practice. I'm sticking on Vanguard, and really, it's going to depend on what happens this month with points on what goes where and how things change. But
yeah, it's dropping really soon, so I'm anticipating it as well. Let's see. Hopefully, they don't nerf my World Eaters, leave them as is. Maybe they do a little bit of buffs. I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I always assume if nothing changes, what is it I want it to look like, and then when things do change, we do what Tyranids do. You adapt.
Yep, 100%.
But, I had a wonderful weekend. The hotel was great. The people were great. like I said, even my victories were, my opponents were gentlemen. My losses, my opponents were very kind. There was no, like, I believe it was Eric and Steven. There was no gotchas. I took extra time to explain to my opponents, hey, there's a lot of tricks. So if I'm over explaining, I'm not condescending you. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. And everyone was very understanding and had 7 fantastic games.
Love it. Love it. No, thank you. Thank you for that. And I'm glad that you had a wonderful experience as well. So, you have any type of tips and tricks that maybe you want to give out to a fellow Tyrannus player that might be listening today? Anything you want to let them know?
Absolutely. Stick with the army. This army, and most armies do, but Tyranids more than maybe any other besides AdMech, really reward you for the repetitions. Because there are a lot of synergies you need. If you have Neurolictors to make sure they're in range, you need all your Synapse 6 inches to be checked, your Hive Tyrants, or in my case, a Flying Hive Tyrant, your 12-inch Aura for free strats. Predicting if you're going to need that 1 CP at the end of the turn to go up, or do a 2 CP to combat interrupts. You really need moving your Exocrine. So, like, if you can predict where they're going to need to be to either come hit you or screen you out, that they can have line of sight and not have to move to hit on 2s. There is a lot to consider. And the only way you really get used to that is playing it. Placing Spore Mines, staging them so you can move them later to block places. It's just repetition really does reward, or Tyrannid repetition really rewards players.
I agree.
Also, this is for everybody, not just Tyrannid players. Play people better than you. 100%. But
don't be an elitist. Don't be an elitist and not play people who are on your level or not as knowledgeable as you. But try to play people who are more experienced than you, so you can learn from them as well. Try to go out to all of these tournaments and things like that. And I think that's exactly what Thomas is saying, right? Enjoy yourself with all your friends. Enjoy yourself with whoever. But try to go compete and play players that are more experienced than you.
Yep, absolutely. It's I described to some friends of mine who were couldn't quite make it, but were checking in on me throughout the weekend that I was a little fish in a big pond, where with the group I play in, I'm kind of one of the big fish. So it was nice to get there and kind of start. Honestly, I really appreciated my losses more than my wins because I learned so much more.
Indeed.
And it was like, for example, into Thousand Suns, an 11-point loss into Mike, which I think is probably the best T-Suns player in the USA, let alone Florida. Also, I dragged down 2 with Vortex Beast, and that's just not something I thought Tyranids could ever do. So, hell yeah. But play everybody. Don't just play games you'll think you'll win, and don't only play people at your level.
Yeah, because you might play into somebody who is not experienced as you and have an army or a trap in an army or a technique, right? That you might encounter in a more experienced player, right? So there's always opportunities. I know when I play against you, I'm always very leery. I'm always very scared. Anybody, right? Like, I don't sleep on anybody. That's not to say that I'm a better player than you. That's just to say that I don't sleep on anybody. I think that everybody has the possibility to be great. They just need to practice, right? Practice, and read their books, right? Listen to people in different podcasts and in Discord and Facebook and social medias around the world, and listen to people. And when they're playing that particular army that you're playing with, right? Get all those tips and tricks. If people are talking about how to be better in charging, like we do on the show, or my live shows that I do on Fridays in person, right, where I do classes, those are your opportunities to learn. And you can say, oh, okay, well, I can take this into my Custodes army. I can take this knowledge into my Necrons army, whatever it might be, right? So, Recon, what's the best way for someone new to the area to try to get a team for the event? I don't have 7 friends around here yet, but you will. You're going to get a lot of friends very, very fast. Look, I would advise you to message me and Thomas. I don't know what area, when you say local to the area, is entirely. Message us. Let us know. We'll try to direct you to all of the stores. We don't have any preferences, or at least I'll speak for my own right? I don't have any preferences on what type of stores you should go to. Obviously, I would love for you to come to my grand tournaments because I do a lot of those throughout the year. I have obviously this team event coming out in November, potentially 2 more events before the year. I was just offered 2 more positions, so I might do 2 more events throughout the year. But I, in particular, do Rubicon events with Tim Wright at Coliseum of Comics in Orlando. I'm actually from the Tampa area, so I go and I do classes in St. Pete at Critical Hit Games. So it really depends where you might be. I don't like to plug in different locations, right? Oh, you're near Coliseum of Comics in Kissimmee. So yeah, I would love to see you January. Let me double check real quick. It's going to be the second Saturday in Coliseum of Comics in Kissimmee, which is the 11th. So on the 11th, I will be running an RTT, a 40-man RTT there. You're more than welcome to come out. Bring your army with you. I do not force anyone to have a painted army because it's more practice, but I do require people to have a primed army. Just make sure your stuff is primed. You don't have to have it completely painted. Just come out, have a good time, try your army out. I'm assuming you've played the game before, right? So just come out, play the game, stomp a couple faces, whatever you want to do, meet new friends, things like that, and you're going to meet a plethora of new individuals, right? For the team event, message me. Obviously, I'll be the head judge for the team event. Message me. I'll put you in a Mercs team, or I'll put you in a team that people are looking for additional people for, right? So we'll figure it out. Make sure on YouTube, you can message me on YouTube. You can try to get into my Facebook groups. I also talk about Coliseum of Comics events all the time, and you can give me a direct message in there. You can jump into my Discord, send me a DM in there. There are many avenues for where you can get in contact with me or Thomas, and we'll figure it out. Oh, Caesar, what's up? Okay.
Hit me up. I'll talk to you later, Caesar.
Yeah,
I'm in his Discord, same name, Elite Hatter. I'm in his the Onslaught Facebook page. Send me a message and I'll we'll talk.
100%. That's all we're about, right? We're about community building, bringing people in. If you need a team, we'll try to figure out where you fit in, right? You said you play Grey Knights, so the Knights and Grey Knights players. So we'll try to fit you into a team that has an opening for either one of those factions that you have. That's kind of how it works with these teams, right? If someone else has already taken it, someone else can't take the opportunity to actually play into it as well. So also, I'll talk about it more in a couple of months with Thomas and things like that, or in about a month. But if you take any allies from another codex or index, you're not allowed to run that army as well. So make sure you're cognizant of that. If you end up taking, for example, Grey Knights, and then you take Imperial Agents, somebody else on your team is not going to be able to run Imperial Agents as a full codex in your team. So, but we'll talk about that once we start breaking down. I'll have an entire episode about the Onslaught Tampa Open in a few weeks, and we'll break down exactly the details for that and bring you everything that you need for success as always. So kind of going, thank you very much, Thomas. Love you, baby. As always, you are the absolute best. Thank you for your participation at the Crucible 2024. And it was amazing to hang out with you. You know, you're one of my bestest buds in the world. So thank you for everything. It's always a pleasure to be around you, you know, in the game, out of the game, whatever it might be when we get on the phone and things like that. So kind of talking about my experience as being the head judge for Crucible 24. I had an amazing experience with the players, participants, and everything that went on there. I obviously want to do a lot better by everyone, making sure that next year we have a little bit more swag, a little bit more sponsorship, things like that. I want to make sure that there are a couple of key things that are changed for stream, for announcements. I might even elevate the amount of time, because I do play in a lot of team events, right? And in team events, there's usually 4 hours, but it's not to play the game, right? It's 30 minutes for a captain's meeting. Basically, the captains and the players all get together and they do the whole shebang where they're breaking out the pairings and things like that. I really do appreciate that a lot. it gives a lot of people the opportunity to have that extra time to walk there, have the time to set up and deploy. So I'm thinking about maybe changing things a little bit for 2025 for the Crucible, and probably doing 3 hours and 15 minutes, maybe even 3 hours and 30 minutes. That might be a little bit of stretch because I have to be cognizant not of the venue. We're there at the venue to midnight, but of the participants, right? If I start doing 3 rounds on Saturday, 3.5 hours, we're talking about what, 10.5 hours of just playtime, 2 hours of lunch, so you can participate with the vendors and look at the other stuff that's going on. So those are the kind of changes that I'm looking for in 2025. There's going to be an overhaul on different things in administration, things like that. I want to make things a lot better. I want to continue to grow and make Crucible a lot more exciting, a better experience for everyone who participates. That is always my goal, my angle, right? I do this for the passion. I consider myself more of a community organizer than a tournament organizer. A tournament organizer, I feel like, is an individual that gets paid for what they do, even though I love money. But I'm a community organizer. I want to get people in there. I want to get people to come around and enjoy their experience, whatever event that I might be running. I want to make sure that people are happy. I want to make sure that people are acting correctly. People are bringing their best etiquette and you know, like I keep on saying, having an amazing experience. So I want to continue to add on to that and to work on that throughout the year. So hopefully I can do that a little bit better next year. Hopefully there will be new things next year to come as well. Maybe a new swagging system, things like that. I just want everybody to have it in the best way, period, you know, overall. Also, if you're willing to do a Carnage and you run events, things like that, I am, once again, a community organizer. I work with the community, right? Even with tournament organizers. So I like to be the liaison of all things greater in the state of Florida. If you want to run SGA, which we call the Sega circuit in Florida, let me know. I oversee that in the state of Florida currently. Also, the UTC circuit, I add all of my events into that. A lot of things. There's a plethora of things that I can add and enhance to your event as well. Just reach out to me, get in contact with me, and let me know exactly how I can help you and participate in your world, right? So you have anything else to say, Thomas, before we head out?
Well, I think we covered it.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone who participated at Crucible. Thank you to everyone who's watched the stream today live, as we always do every other Tuesday. Hopefully in the future we can continue to do it. Maybe every Tuesday we'll do live in the future. Who knows? Maybe we'll get some sponsorship. We'll get some funding, battle reports, things like that. Make sure to like, share, subscribe as always. Love everyone. And I'm going to do a quick outro real quick, Thomas, and then I'll see you in a second. All right, brother?
See ya.
Say bye to everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, brother. All right. So once again, I want to thank everyone. Much love. Thank you to everyone that participated at the Crucible. Thank you to all of my sponsors, everyone who assisted, everyone who was a judge. Thank you very much to Eric Mullins. He was a wonderful, wonderful head judge over the painting portion. I love that guy. That guy is super sweet, super nice. I appreciate him very much for everything that he did at the event. Big Bear 3D for the wonderful terrain that he has created. Away Games for allowing us to use that terrain. Who else am I forgetting? There's a bunch of people. Baron of Dice for all of the wonderful dice that we were able to purchase from them. So thank you very much to everyone. Hopefully I will see you in 2025 Crucible. If I don't, hopefully I see you in the November 8-man tournament. Also, I'm going to have a tournament, a GT in March in 2025. Lots of events. Rubicon on the 11th of January next year. So there's going to be a lot of events. Hopefully, see me at my shows on every other Friday. I do a class and help people out, bridge that gap between, you know, the disparity between novice and expert level players. So thank you so much to everyone who participated. And as always, Onslaught Gaming 40K, where victory is just a strategy away. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Much love. Big heart. Take care.